Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. Qatar court accepts India's appeal against death penalty to aid former Navy personnel. Next hearing soon. Rescue operation underway in India's Uttarkashi to rescue 41 workers trapped in an under-construction tunnel. Pause in Israel-Hamas fighting comes into effect. First group of 13 Israeli women and children to be released from Gaza soon. And Taiwan's opposition parties fail to forge an alliance for January election, field separate candidates, raising the prospects of the ruling party. A four-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza came into effect today. This is the first pause in the 48-day-old conflict. Dozens of Israeli tanks were seen moving away from the Gaza Strip as the temporary truce began. Later in the day, as part of a comprehensive agreement, 13 Israeli women and children will be released by the Hamas in exchange for a number of prisoners held in Israeli jails. A total of 150 Israeli hostages will be released in return for 150 prisoners over the span of 4 days. Meanwhile, aid trucks have entered Gaza from Egypt via the Rafah border crossing point. Additional aid was allowed into Gaza as part of the deal.
The
IDF continues to fight in the Gaza Strip at this time as well. Control over northern Gaza is the first step of a long war. We are preparing for the next stages. We are looking forward in the coming days. We will focus on planning and fulfilling the next stages of the war. When the lull in the fighting goes into effect, our forces will be stationed at the ceasefire line inside the Gaza Strip. I want to emphasize, inside the Gaza Strip, and they will also move along these lines that were agreed upon in the agreement.
Meanwhile, Israelis in Tel Aviv say that they are happy that a four-day ceasefire has begun between Israel and the Hamas and that hostages would be released from Gaza. They are hopeful that all hostages would be freed soon.
I just want to see the children come back. We want all of them to come back. But the first group of children will start breathing again, I think.
Well, I'm happy that the hostages, or some of them at least, are going to be released. Hopefully everyone will, and this is the only thing that I care about at this very moment. I think all other things will be resolved later. It's not something that we don't think about, but we really need the hostages back now.
We are more than happy to hear this news. We are very happy with any hostages that are going to be released. We are still waiting to see Omer's name in one of these lists. We are waiting for him.
And Sarah Coates joins us from Tel Aviv for more. Sarah, is a ceasefire holding?
Hello, Ramesh. Well, look, at this stage, it certainly seems as though it is. We are, though, hearing some reports that a number of people inside the Gaza Strip are actually trying to cross the river which separates the north from the south. This is after the Israeli military issued a warning to people down in the south to stay there, not to try and come to their homes back in the north, which is declared as a heavy military zone. It even dropped flyers right across the Gaza Strip saying, do not go back to the north, stay in the south. Now, this is the concern there for the Israeli military, that Hamas may be trying to push people from the south back up north. And the military says it has crowd control methods that it will use. But look, at this stage, it certainly seems as though this ceasefire is holding, although people are very cautiously optimistic. They are hoping that it continues to hold. Ramesh.
And also, Sarah, what more can you tell us about the first group of 13 Israeli hostages who are to be released soon?
Well, look, they're set to be released in less than 6 hours' time, Ramesh. We do know that they will be women and children. There are unconfirmed reports on just who these people may be, but we did hear from the United States. It is hoping that there will be a little girl in that batch. She's turning 4 years old today. She still doesn't know she's become an orphan. So she is one of the people that the US is really hoping will be in this first batch of hostages. So they're set to be released 4 p.m. local time. They'll be handed over to the Red Cross before they go to the Rafah border crossing, where they're handed over to the Israeli military. They'll then come back into Israel, where they'll have treatment at a number of hospitals which have been specially set up for them before being taken to a more isolated medical facility where they will be reunited with their loved ones. Now, I've just also spoken with a communications person from the Israeli Prison Service, and they did confirm to me that there are 39 prisoners now, Palestinian prisoners, who are currently being processed and will be released once these hostages are released back on Israeli territory.
All right, Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv, thank you for now. Appreciate it. In some other news, Qatar court has accepted a plea against death penalty awarded to 8 former Indian Navy personnel. The appeal was filed after the Court of First Instance of Qatar passed a judgment on 26th October in the case involving 8 Indian employees of the Al Dahra company, where the verdict of death penalty was awarded to them. On 7th November, the Indian embassy in Doha got another round of consular access where they had met these 8 individuals. And my colleague Meghna Dev joins us for more from the Delhi newsroom. Meghna, what more can you tell us about the Qatar court's order?
As much as we know that the Qatar court has accepted the plea against the verdict, and obviously, as you said, the verdict had come on October 26th, saying that awarding death penalty to these 8 Indian nationals who were working for Al Dahra company there in Qatar. Also, besides that, we saw that on November 7, another round of consular access was given, where our embassy in Doha, the officials had met these 8 individuals. Besides that, also we know that the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar had met the family members of these individuals after the verdict was announced. And also, not only this, we definitely see that the legal team, just because the judgment is confidential and only the legal team has access to the judgment, the legal team has been pursuing this case, and an appeal was filed immediately after, as what we know, the verdict had come out. Besides that, also we see that now the hearing is expected to be heard anytime soon, and what sources tell us that the appeal is being studied, and we will definitely get to know in a few days that when the next hearing will take place. Besides that, another thing that we know that our embassy has been constantly following it, and the Minister of External Affairs is constantly in touch with the Qatari authorities on following up on this case.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Meghna Dev, thank you for now. Much appreciated. Moving on, a 26-year-old Indian doctoral student, Aditya Adlaka, lost his life after being shot inside a car in the state of Ohio in the U.S. Aditya Adlaka was a 4th-year doctoral student at the University of Cincinnati Medical School. The incident took place on the 9th of November when Cincinnati police officers found Adlaka shot inside a vehicle that had crashed into a wall. Aditya Adlaka was transported to the UC Medical Center, where he was in a critical condition and was pronounced dead 2 days afterwards. No arrests have been made since the shooting was reported. The 6th Australia-India Leadership Dialogue is being hosted in Melbourne, bringing together more than 100 leaders from business, academia and government to help shape the deepening relationship between the two countries. Addressing the dialogue, India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar said that India and Australia's friendship extends from sea to space.
Our engagements extend from sea to space, covering all possible areas such as defense and security, cyber and critical technology, trade and economic, science and technology and innovations, education, and people-to-people ties. Even our bonds of cricket have strengthened further, though not always to India's advantage.
Now shifting focus to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, in which both sides have claimed to repel each other's attacks. Russia says it pushed back Ukrainian attacks in Donetsk and Kherson. It said that its forces downed a Ukrainian helicopter and 16 drones. It also claimed to have intercepted rockets fired from US-supplied HIMARS system. Meanwhile, Ukraine says it repelled Russian assaults near Bakhmut and launched strikes on Russian military equipment. Hungary is against the inclusion of Ukraine in the European Union during wartime because it's high time for Russia and Ukraine to hold peace talks, says Hungarian Foreign Minister at the UN headquarters in New York City. Speaking on Ukraine's EU membership, Peter Siarto says inclusion of a war-torn country such as Ukraine would further raise tensions.
The European Union should extend peace and should not include war. And we have the feeling that now inclusion of Ukraine would mean inclusion of the war as well. On the other hand, it's absolutely absurd that we should make judgment about forward progress of Ukraine on EU-related matters while the country is at war. I mean, how could you assess the rule of law situation, the situation regarding freedom of speech, the situation regarding the operation of the judiciary branch, there are no elections taking place, and so on and so forth. So it's absurd that we should make a judgment about such kind of issues during war.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh Chief Mohan Bhagwat addresses the World Hindu Congress in Thailand. A preview of the UN Climate Change Summit to be hosted by the UAE. And Sri Lanka's central bank reduces its key policy rates by 100 basis points to boost growth.
Recent conflicts, wars and calamities have displaced millions of people worldwide. Will this migrant situation lead to a global socio-economic crisis? Watch Connecting the Dots at these times only on DD India.
A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the Global South with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. The massive rescue operation to prepare an escape route for the 41 workers trapped inside the Silkyara tunnel in India's Uttarkashi has reached its final phase. Boring through the rubble with an auger is yet to be resumed, while the rescuers have set the platform to begin the drilling again. The rescuing team is just 5 meters short of reaching those 41 trapped workers. And speaking to DD India, a tunneling expert, Arnold Dix, who has been roped in for the rescue operation, says he's confident that the trapped workers will be brought out soon.
You know, we'll see. I'm not saying when, but we're going to bring the 41 out, and that's because this country has rallied together and other countries of the world have rallied together, and we're all here working together to get these men home. Want to see is 41 happy, smiling people out. That's the result. When? I'm not sure, but that's the result.
And my colleague Dibyendu Mondal now joins us from Uttarkashi, from the site of that tunnel. Dibyendu, how's the rescue operation coming along? Do you have an update for us?
Well, the rescue operation has entered its final phase, and according to officials here, they are just 5 meters short from reaching the 41 trapped workers who are trapped inside this tunnel. It's just a matter of time now. We are hoping that by today evening they could be pulled out one after the other, and the NDRF has already done a dry run on as to how they will be bringing them out from the tunnel through the pipe that has been inserted and welded into the tunnel through the vertical drilling method. But a quick update, the auger drilling, which had stopped since last night, is yet to begin. But however, officials here say that it will begin in another half an hour or so. But once it begins, it will just take about an hour and a half to complete the 5-meter drilling. But what caused the delay? The delay was caused by a lot of iron girders that had come in between, and also the auger machine which failed last night. These were some of the hiccups that the rescue operators here had faced. But however, the drilling machine is currently being assembled. But also, let me tell our viewers, it is a huge machine which takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to just assemble that machine. So the auger machine is in the last phase of being assembled, and as soon as the machine is assembled, the drilling process will begin soon. In the meanwhile, what the rescue workers are doing here is that they are welding the pipes together. They're cleaning the pipes because remember, there could be sharp edges at the welding points where these pipes have been welded. So therefore, keeping those in mind, all the other preparatory works are being carried out here at the site to ensure that the 41 trapped workers are out soon from the tunnel. Maybe we are all hoping that by tonight some sort of positive news is about to come from here at the Silkyara tunnel site in Uttarakhand.
All right, Dibyendu Mondal in Uttarkashi, thank you for now, appreciate it. And just a quick programming note, we are given to understand that a press conference would be held by the officials at that tunnel site in about 10 or 15 minutes from now. We'll get you the live update in a bit. But moving on for now, the World Hindu Congress, which takes place every 4 years, is being hosted currently in the Thai capital of Bangkok. The Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh chief, Mohan Bhagwat, addressed the event. He said that people fight and dominate each other to acquire material happiness. He added that the world looks upon India to acquire peace.
There is no bliss and peace. And now, especially after Corona period, they have started rethinking. And it seems they are unanimous in thinking that Bharat will provide the way. The very birth of our society and our nation is for the same purpose.
The 28th Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or COP28, is set to kick off on 30th November until the 12th of December in the UAE. The COP28 agenda outlines a comprehensive framework encompassing diverse themes and initiatives, all aimed at catalyzing global action to combat climate change. The world stands at a critical juncture in its fight against climate change. This gathering in the UAE signifies the collective commitment required to navigate the intricate challenges posed by climate change and forge a sustainable future for all. And joining me is my colleague Vinod Kumar from the UAE. Vinod, what's on the agenda of the COP28 this year?
See, Ramesh, as we speak now, on November 24th, the pre-sessionals of the COP have already begun in Dubai. Before coming to the agenda, let me give an intro of what are the pre-COP that have already happened. Pre-COP sessions have already happened in Abu Dhabi, discussing various modalities of financing, nature-centric development, and of course, arresting the temperature rise beyond 1.5 degrees. So essential to the UN framework of convention, COP stands as a primary decision-making body, uniting representatives from 197 nations. And throughout this Dubai conference, there will be the incoming COP28 presidency will hold open consultations on thematic areas and sequencing, inviting inputs from broad mix of stakeholders that will attend the conference. The presidency and the incoming presidency will intend to engage in parties throughout the year, has already engaged parties throughout the year in ministerial, head of delegation, and at the technical levels. So coming to your question, what will be the things that will be discussed in COP28? Of course, fast-tracking the move to clean energy sources and to slash greenhouse gas emissions before 2030. And the most important part is delivering money for the climate action from richer to poor countries. In COP27, which happened in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, we have developed a concept of the loss and damage fund, in which the developing countries are about to give a significant sum to the poor developing countries. There will be discussions this year on a new collective goal, new collective quantified goal fund with a base of $100 billion to start with, because as we see the progress, how the climate change is happening throughout the world, the current commitments are not enough. And there will be also discussions on how the richer countries are really, their intention to pay for the poor countries. United States have clearly said that they are not going to give reparations for its historical emissions. So this COP28 definitely will have a discussion on all these aspects on climate-related financing. And the second most important agenda on the table is on nature and people. The COP28 tries to make this UN framework on climate change the most inclusive ever. As I mentioned earlier, COP27 had already this loss and damage fund. And this year, the agenda is very clear to make sure that the developed countries will pay for the poor countries. And the most important thing that is going to happen in this COP28 is the first ever stock take of the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement was ratified in the year 2015, and this is going to be the first time when evaluation of the Paris Agreement happens, where the world stands when it comes to the meeting of the goals and taking the inputs. The stock take will help policymakers and stakeholders to strengthen their climate policies and commitments by this year, and to come with a clear nationally determined contribution.
Right.
And there will also be discussions on the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Just after the COP27 happened in Egypt, the Conference of Parties have convened at Montreal in Canada for the 15th CBD Convention. There they developed this concept of Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, where a comprehensive roadmap for halting and reversing biodiversity was discussed. So all these things are there in the agenda items of COP28, and we can hope that a new commitment will come out of this COP28 that is going to happen in Dubai.
Also, we know, talking about the participation at the summit in terms of countries and leaders, who all can be expected to take part in COP28?
See, as I have told before, UN Framework Convention on Climate Change is the primary decision-making body, and they unite around 197 nations. So we can expect the heads of state of all these countries coming here in Dubai, including our Prime Minister. And these UN FCC COP is divided into 5 segments: Asia, Africa, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Latin America, and Americas. So this year, the presidency is on UAE, and that's why it is happening here. And we can expect all the leaders from all the nations, their environment ministers, their technical delegations, and their finance delegations, and their officiating officers to come here. This is going to be one of the biggest events that the world is witnessing.
All right, we leave it at that. Vinod, thank you. That was Vinod Kumar reporting from Dubai in the UAE. In response to escalating menace of deepfake technology, India's Minister for Electronics and Information Technology and Communications, Ashwini Vaishnav, on Thursday announced that the Indian government will introduce new regulations in 10 days to address this issue. The plan will have 4 pillars, which are detection of deepfakes and deep misinformation, prevention of detected deepfakes and misinformation by removing or reducing their vitality, strengthening the reporting mechanism and awareness.
They understood that this is something which is really harmful for the society. They understood the need for much heavier regulation on this. So we agreed that we will start drafting the regulation. We will be working on 4 pillars. First is detection. Second is how to prevent the spread of deepfakes. Third, how do we strengthen the reporting mechanism and the action on that, which is your question. Fourth, the awareness about deepfakes, how to detect, how to find out, how to report, what harms it can do, all that stuff we will be working.
Meanwhile, India's Minister of State for Electronics and Technology, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, says that today we've had a very longish meeting with all of the important players on the internet. He said that the government of India will nominate a Rule 7 officer and will take 100% compliance expectation from all the platforms. Also, the Indian government looks forward to working with platforms regarding deepfakes, child sexual abuse material as well.
As far as harms is concerned, that includes deepfakes and also includes CSAM, child sexual abuse material, also includes various other categories of content that are prohibited on the Indian internet. So we look forward to working in partnership with these platforms, and we look forward to an era where they will be a lot more responsible and a lot more responsive to the expectations under the law and a lot more compliant.
All right, joining me is Professor M.K. Datta, Director at the Amity Center for Artificial Intelligence. Professor Datta, welcome to DD India News Hour. Now, I have a set of 5 or 6 basic fundamental questions for the benefit of our viewers who are not familiar with the intricacies of the issue at hand here. To begin with, what's the legal definition of a deepfake?
Okay, so am I audible?
Yes, please.
Okay, so deepfake, you see, it's a very recent technology that have come up. You know, the power of deep learning, which is a very predominant technology, you know, which is dominating artificial intelligence. So a new thing has come up called as generative AI. Okay, so generative AI is a very powerful thing, and if you ask me in one line, I can tell you, you know, algorithms like generative AI is capable of producing instances like videos or images which will look exactly similar, and to make it more complicated, you know, it can actually alter the faces or voices of people to make it even more difficult situations.
Right. Professor, my next question to you is the following. How can one spot or detect a deep fake?
That's a very, you know, it's a very challenging question that have asked me. Currently, even the awareness is missing. So if you really see the detection, you're talking about the detection technology.
Right.
So development and implementation of, you know, advanced detection algorithms that actually analyze the videos or the images or the signs of manipulations, etc., are still in very infant state. Of course, Microsoft has launched a video authenticator tool. Intel has also given you some solutions. Watermarking may be one of the ways. Blockchain management may be one of the ways. There are technologies, which are, but still we are in the infancy.
Fair enough. Professor Datta, is it a criminal offense in India, punishable by law? If someone makes a deep fake video or photograph of me, for instance, is that punishable by law in India today?
You see, from exactly, I cannot mention, but then as cyber laws of our country, there are provisions and legal complications. I mean, you know, I may not be in a very good position.
Fair enough.
Yes, but yes, cyber policies of the country is very much have taken cognizance and they're working on that.
Could you also demystify another issue, a related issue to this entire controversy, as it were? What does the Indian law as it stands today say on this issue of deepfake?
Once again, you see, yesterday our own honorable minister has given a statement. I think deepfake is a challenge, and I'm not sure about the law, but cyber laws definitely has got extraordinary sensitivity and regulations to prevent that. But once again, if you ask me about the legal, because I am basically an AI scientist.
I understand exactly where you're coming from, but just so our viewers have a fair idea of the issues at hand here, Professor. In other words, if I could rephrase my question, do you think there is a need for a new law or regulation?
Oh yes, absolutely. You are there. See, even the top people of artificial intelligence today, there are guys like Hindon, there are guys like Lee Kun, the guys who actually invented this deep learning technology. They themselves have been very vocal about it.
Right.
See, social media platforms are so much sensitive and vulnerable that deepfake kind of things has to be curbed at the earliest. And regulations are definitely. And India, such a big country, and India is such a, you can say, a vulnerable, so much diversity in the country. We definitely need very strong laws to control this kind of situations.
And finally, Professor Datta, very quickly, if you will, any do's and don'ts for a victim of deepfake?
Of course, see, the first, maybe I can tell you the education and awareness. I tell you, even generative AI is in such an infancy. Even if you ask a normal computer science, who is a computer science professional, IT professional, they even don't know. First thing is education awareness. Media literacy program has to be, boosted into a maximum, with maximum importance. Authentication methods, maybe regulations, legislations, collaboration with tech companies. But if you ask me, don't you need not panic.
Okay.
My one suggestion is that for the people, you need not panic. If it is a corrupted video, if it is a malified video, don't worry. There are digital forensic experts who can get you the justice and the relief. No need to, you need not panic at all.
All right, don't panic, says Professor M.K. Datta, Director, Amity Center for Artificial Intelligence. Professor Datta, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And still to come on DD India News Hour. 5 people, including 3 children, injured in a knife attack in Ireland's capital, Dublin. And it's Black Friday in the US. Americans kick off the holiday shopping season.
A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the global south with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. Qatar court accepts India's appeal against death penalty to aid former Indian Navy personnel. Next hearing soon. Rescue operation underway in India's Uttarkashi to rescue 41 workers trapped in an under-construction tunnel. And pause in Israel-Hamas fighting comes into effect. The first group of 13 Israeli women and children to be released from Gaza soon. And now to an update on the state assembly elections being held in the 5 states of India. In the southern Indian state of Telangana, election campaigning is underway in full swing for the 30th November election. Top political leaders are holding rallies, roadshows and corner meetings in the state. National leaders of various political parties have already landed in Telangana. India's Home Minister and senior BJP leader Amit Shah held a public meeting in Nizamabad city today. Later, he will also hold a roadshow in Rajendranagar Assembly constituency and Serilingampalli Assembly constituency in Rangareddy district and Amberpet Assembly constituency in Hyderabad. Addressing a gathering, Minister Amit Shah said that the BRS government has destroyed the Telangana state.
तेलंगाना में बीआरएस सरकार ने तेलंगाना को बिल्कुल बर्बाद कर रख दिया है। इन्होंने जितने भी वादे किए थे वो सारे वादों पर केसीआर खरे नहीं उतरे हैं। उन्होंने कोई काम नहीं किया है, एकमात्र काम किया है केटीआर के लिए हजारों करोड़ रुपए का करप्शन करने का काम इन्होंने किया है।
Meanwhile, the Congress party is also campaigning in the state. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge will hold public meetings in Nalgonda and Alampur. Rahul Gandhi, in turn, will hold rallies and road shows in Jukkal, Medak, Tandur and Khairatabad. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi will hold an election rally in Telangana's Palakurthi, Husnabad and Dharampuri today. In the western state of Rajasthan, election campaigning has concluded for the Legislative Assembly elections on Thursday. The voting is scheduled to take place on 25th November. And now take a look at some other stories making news in India. The Indian Coast Guard is conducting a two-day national-level pollution response exercise from today in the western Indian state of Gujarat. The exercise will test various facets of marine pollution response mechanisms and assess the readiness of resource agencies to tackle any marine spill contingency. The wreath-laying ceremony of the 5 army personnel was held on Friday. Senior army officials paid tributes to the brave hearts. The army personnel were martyred in an encounter in Jammu and Kashmir's Rajouri district in a 36-hour-long gunfight with the security forces on Wednesday and Thursday. A large cache of arms and ammunition was recovered from the site of the encounter. The Indian Air Force organized an air show at the Air Force Station in the Ambala cantonment in Haryana. The Surya Kiran aerobatics team and the Akash Ganga Daredevil skydiving team descended from the sky to showcase their skills at the event. The Indian Prime Minister's initiative of Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra continues in the Indian state of Assam, which has extended to a couple of newer districts on Thursday. The Yatra made its landfall in Morigaon, Dibrugarh, Hojai and Kokrajhar districts of the state. In the program, the people were educated about the various benefits which will be provided by the departments of the government. The nano area spray drone was also displayed on the occasion. Sri Lanka's central bank reduced its key policy rates by 100 basis points on Friday to boost growth as the country struggles to emerge from its worst financial crisis in decades. The CBSL has forecast Sri Lanka's economy will shrink 2% this year after a 7.8% contraction in 2022 when it went into a tailspin because of a severe foreign exchange shortage. The World Bank, however, has predicted a 3.8% contraction in 2023. In news from Ireland now, at least 5 people, including 3 young children, were attacked in a stabbing incident at the capital, Dublin, on Thursday. Prime Minister Leo Varadkar says police have detained a suspect. According to the police, 1 girl sustained serious injuries, while the other 2 children are being treated for less serious injuries. Police further said that the other 2 are also being treated for serious injuries. A clash between protesters and riot police broke out in Dublin after the knife attack. Police in riot gear pushed back protesters near the scene of the stabbing. Ireland's police chief said 34 people had been arrested over rioting. Police said that the suspect attacked a number of people on Dublin's Parnell Square, but was stopped from causing any further harm as members of the public intervened in an early stage of the attack. And while speaking to media persons, the island's police chief says he had not ruled out any motive in relation to a stabbing in Dublin, including whether it could be terror-related. It's Black Friday in the US, the day when Americans still full from Thanksgiving turkey kick off their holiday gift buying. It's often one of the busiest shopping days of the year, and retailers offer steep discounts to compete for customers. But as Tony Waterman explains, there is a dark cloud hanging over this year's shopping bonanza.
Black Friday is synonymous with deals in the U.S. You can often get the latest electronics, appliances, clothing, you name it, for 40, 50, even 60% off regular prices, which is why it has always been one of, if not the busiest shopping days of the year. The National Retail Federation, which is the largest retail trade group in the U.S., says more than 180 million people are planning to shop over the Thanksgiving holiday, and the vast majority of them are doing that today on Black Friday. And those consumers are expected to spend slightly more money than they did last year, but the growth of that spend is slowing, which has businesses worried. Many big-name retailers, including electronics giant Best Buy, upscale department store Nordstrom, and Abercrombie & Fitch, have all issued lackluster fourth quarter forecasts. The common concern, the economy. Despite a solid jobs market and low unemployment, consumers are under pressure from persistent inflation. Things just cost more, which has eaten into their savings, and higher interest rates mean they're spending more on credit card debt, which could hold them back this holiday season. This has left retailers really cautious and intently focused on not just Black Friday, but also Cyber Monday, which is the big online sales day after Thanksgiving. If sales are strong, the holiday season could prove better than expected, but if they're muted, it could signal a ho-hum, ho-ho-ho season. In Austin, Texas, Tony Waterman reporting for DD India.
The World Health Organization says China had shared data about a recent surge in respiratory illnesses among children one day after the agency said it was seeking more information about the possibility of undiagnosed pneumonia cases there. According to a WHO statement on Thursday, the Chinese data indicated no detection of any unusual or novel pathogens. DD India's Andrew Wood reports from Hong Kong.
The World Health Organization, it asked for information because there were these reports, sometimes unconfirmed, of an increase in apparent clusters of child pneumonia, and also because the Chinese authorities themselves have said there'd been a rise in respiratory illnesses. So China apparently provided the information, test results and so on to the WHO within the 24-hour period, and the WHO seems to be satisfied with that. Remember, these are the highest levels that China has said for 3 years. And don't forget that that means we've had the highest levels since the end of the pandemic measures towards the late last year when they were lifted. So in a way, it's to be expected there would be a rise in respiratory illnesses because all of those strict rules and regulations and measures that China put in place to control the spread of COVID also controlled the spread of things like flu and other sort of respiratory illnesses. So the conclusion seems to be that the rise in respiratory illnesses was to be expected because you've had the end of the COVID restrictions, and we're in in November, October, November, that's when the start of the flu and the cold season starts. The government has not given anything, well, not that much information publicly. The warning was sounded by an organisation known as ProMed, which is a worldwide network for monitoring unusual diseases or even known diseases, but something that may not be captured immediately by official statistics. And ProMed also raised the alarm too in the earlier days of the COVID pandemic. And don't forget, both China, the Chinese government, and the WHO are under a lot of scrutiny. They had a lot of criticism in the early days, especially of the pandemic, that they were very slow in giving information out about the spread of COVID.
Brazil's President Lula Inácio Lula da Silva laid out Brazil's priorities during its G20 presidency, which begins in December. In a cabinet meeting with his ministers, Lula stressed the need to focus on issues such as reducing hunger and poverty, addressing climate change, and reforming global governance to bring about meaningful change. He also criticized international financial institutions for their practices and called for reform, insisting expansion of the UN Permanent Security Council. The G20 foreign ministers will meet in Rio de Janeiro in February to discuss these priorities. Now, this comes after India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hosted a virtual G20 summit to review the policy goals set at the previous summit. Far-right populist Geert Wilders and his Freedom Party win 37 seats, shocking the opposition in the Netherlands. Also, it indicated possible reverberations throughout Europe. Coalition formation expected to be challenging and may take several months. DD India's Trent Murray has more.
While the initial surprise and shock at Geert Wilders' election win in the Netherlands may just be starting to subside, there is still intense focus now on whether him and his Freedom Party can form a coalition government and ultimately lead the Netherlands. Now, for 25 years, this is a politician who has really been on the fringes of mainstream politics. He has not been a huge electoral force in the Netherlands, but that all changed on election night with those results showing that he won 37 seats in the 150-seat parliament. Now, that was by far the largest vote share. His closest rival was a centre-left Green group who won 25 seats. And so it really does put him now in the box position to try and form a coalition government. But it will not be easy. Many other political parties are very opposed to him and his party and what he represents. By all stretches, his policies are quite extreme for Europe. His policies include halting all asylum and immigration to the Netherlands. His platform includes a banning of mosques and Islamic schools. He's suggested that the Netherlands could have a Brexit-style vote on pulling it out of the European Union, and he is also a supporter of ending military support for Ukraine. These are all positions which really do not square well with the majority of the Dutch electorate. So even though he won the most number of seats on that night, trying to find political friends, if you will, to join him in a coalition government will remain difficult. But nevertheless, he says he does intend to govern, and he has had negotiations over the past 24 hours to try and gain some of those political friends. The other outcome that we could see, that we are watching for, is effectively all of his opponents, all of the other political parties from the mainstream, putting aside their ideological differences, coming together to form a grand coalition in order to try and block him from power. But that, of course, too, comes with its risks. It could backfire with the electorate. Given that he did place first, many in the Netherlands will expect that he should be the front runner to lead the country. Trent Murray for DD India, Berlin.
And shifting focus away from Europe to the Indo-Pacific now, opposition parties from Taiwan rush to register their presidential candidates before the deadline as China increases pressure on the island. Talks of a joint ticket between the Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party failed dramatically on live TV with no agreement reached. The Democratic People's Party, in contrast, has proceeded smoothly with its election campaign. Now, this political drama has had little impact on Taiwan's stock market, although the tourism and hospitality sub-index experienced a significant drop because of concerns over relations with China. In Ecuador, business heir Daniel Noboa has been sworn in as the country's new president. Ecuador's youngest ever president, 35-year-old Noboa, pledges to reduce violence and create jobs via urgent legislative reform. The South American country is facing deep economic challenges and spiking violence that reached an unprecedented crescendo with the murder of presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio. He also appointed his new cabinet on Thursday after his swearing-in ceremony, including 26-year-old Sadie Frichi Naranjo as the Minister of Environment. Noboa will serve as president for just 17 months, finishing predecessor Guillermo Lasso's term after the latter brought forward elections to avoid a likely impeachment. Madagascar is set to announce preliminary results of its presidential election on the 24th or 25th of November. All right, let me take you live now to the venue of that under-construction tunnel in India's Uttarkashi, where a press conference is about to begin in that location to brief us all on the progress of the rescue mission on to help bring those 41 trapped workers out of that collapsed tunnel. We'll get you more on that momentarily, but just to bring our viewers up to speed with the latest news coming in from Uttarkashi, the site of that under-construction tunnel that collapsed about 12 or 13 days ago. The 41 workers who are trapped inside are safe. Only about a 5 or 6 meter distance needs to be covered to make physical contact with those workers. Remember, drilling and laying of pipes has progressed over the last 3 or 4 days now. There were some hurdles in the meantime. The equipment could not make headway. The drilling has resumed since then, and we're given to understand that the work is continuing apace, and that very soon some good news could become available to all of us as the country hopes for a safe return of these 41 workers who are trapped, as you can see on your screens right now, in that under-construction tunnel that collapsed in Uttarkashi about 12 or 13 days ago. We are standing by for a press conference by officials manning that massive rescue operation on in Silkyara end of that tunnel for the latest on the rescue operation. We'll get you live updates in just a bit. It's almost getting to 3 p.m. local time here in India, and we are standing by for a press conference by officials who are supervising that rescue operation at the collapsed tunnel in India's Uttarkashi in the northern state of Uttarakhand. Remember, 41 workers are trapped inside that tunnel as we speak. Right, so as you can see, these are the latest visuals coming to you from Uttarkashi, where officials are getting ready to address a media conference. Remember, as I said before, we are tracking the progress in the rescue of 41 workers who are trapped inside that tunnel for the last almost 2 weeks now. And work has continued apace, and we'll get you more as we go along. Remember, these are officials from the civil administration and the engineering or the technical teams who are supervising this entire mammoth proceeding. Let's listen in.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
रेडी? चलिए। नमस्कार, आज की पीसी में आप सभी का स्वागत है। हमारे साथ एमडी महमूद सर हैं, जो एडिशनल सेक्रेटरी भारत सरकार में हैं, डीजी इंफॉर्मेशन बंशीधर तिवारी जी हैं, और मैं डॉक्टर नीरज खैरवाल, सेक्रेटरी कोऑर्डिनेशन गवर्नमेंट ऑफ उत्तराखंड। आज की पीसी में जैसा कि आप सब अवगत हैं कि जो हमारा टनल रेस्क्यू का काम चल रहा है, इसके अंदर कुछ हर्डल्स पहले आई थी, कुछ उसके बाद हर्डल्स और आई हैं। उन हर्डल्स को एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए थोड़ा सा ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि आप सभी भी अवगत हैं कि काम चल रहा है, दिन रात लोग देख रहे हैं, तो लोगों को नॉलेज होना कि पता चल जाएगा आपके माध्यम से क्या मुसीबतें आ रही हैं, क्या मुसीबतें ओवरकम की गई हैं। उसके लिए मैं चाहूँगा महमूद सर से, एमडी सर से, कि आपको तो जो स्ट्रक्चरल चीज़ें हैं उसके बारे में एक बार अवगत कराएंगे। सर बताना चाहेंगे सर रिगार्डिंग सर बताया।
नमस्कार, जैसे कि आप लोगों को अच्छी तरह से पता है, 22 तारीख को शाम के 4-5 बजे तक हमने 45 मीटर का पाइप इंसर्ट कर दिया था यहाँ। उसके बाद जब हम आगे बढ़ने चले, उसके बाद की पाइप हमने डालने की प्रयास जारी की। उस वक्त हमारे पास जैसे मैं कह रहा था कि कभी हो सकता है अड़चनें आ जाएं, कुछ बाधाएं आ जाएं, तो एक पहली बाधाएं जो हमें सेंस किया हमने, हमारी मशीन ने कोई रुकावट हुई उसको, वो एक गर्डर के तौर पे हमें सामने रास्ते पे ही वो हमारा रास्ता को रोका उसने। गर्डर एक ऐसा होता है, मैं नीरज जी से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि वो आपको बताएं।
इसका डिटेल विजुअल भी आप लोगों को फोटोग्राफ मिल जाएगा, जैसे ये 3 सरिये की स्ट्रक्चर है सर।
हाँ, तो ये देखिए, ये जैसे गर्डर है, इसको लैटिस गर्डर रिब कहते हैं। तो ये गर्डर, ये अभी तो स्टॉकयार्ड में है। ये जब टनल में लगता है तो वो ऐसा होता है, और क्योंकि टनल में कोलैप्स हुआ था, ये मलबा के साथ ये भी मलबा में कहीं मिला हुआ था। और जो हम जब अपनी पाइप को हम आगे पुश कर रहे थे, तो ये लैटिस गर्डर रिब जो था वो पाइप के रास्ते पे हमें मिला, और इस वजह से पाइप और आगे हम पुश नहीं कर पाए। मशीन को हमारा रोकना पड़ा, जो ऑगर ड्रिलिंग मशीन है हमारा, और क्योंकि पाइप के अंदर ही होता है ऑगर ड्रिलिंग मशीन, तो हमें फिज़िकली मैनुअली जाके चेक करना होता है। पूरे तरह से पाइप को रोकना पड़ा। ऑगर ड्रिलिंग मशीन बिट बाय बिट 8 उसके पीसेस हमने निकाले। उसके बाद पाइप के अंदर हमने बंदा भेजा जिन्होंने मैनुअल इसको चेक इन किए। ये 22 तारीख के शाम रात की बात है, और हमने एक्सपर्ट्स बुलाए इसके लिए। और एक्सपर्ट्स जो हैं ट्रेंचलेस इंजीनियरिंग कंपनी के हैं, जो मशीन ही चलाते हैं, ऑगर ड्रिलिंग मशीन चलाते हैं। उनके ख़ास जो बंदे हैं जिनको ये एक्सपीरियंस है कि वो 40 मीटर और ज़्यादा भी अंदर जाकर ऐसे बड़े रिस्ट्रिक्टेड स्पेस में, आप समझ सकते हैं कि 900 mm की पाइप है और 45 मीटर बंदा कोई अंदर जा रहा है, और हाथ में उसके कटर है, गैस कटर है, ऑक्सीजन का मास्क पहना है उसने, और उसमें गर्मी बहुत होती है, ऑक्सीजन की कमी होती है। वहाँ जाकर इस गर्डर को उसने काटा है, काट के जो बाधाएं आई हमारे रास्ते पे उसको उसने हटाया है। ये एक दिक्कत जो थी हमें, जो हमने 22 तारीख की पूरी रात, 23 के सवेरे हम इस प्रयास पे लगे रहे कि जल्द से जल्द हम दोबारा अपना ऑपरेशंस फिर से स्टार्ट कर पाएँ। ये करने के बाद फिर मैनुअल चेक होता है, फिर से वो सारी जो ऑगर ड्रिलिंग मशीन है वो फिर से वापस रीअसेंबल होता है, उसको हम पाइप के अंदर डालते हैं, और फिर पुश करने की हमने 23 तारीख को फिर हमने प्रयास शुरू किया। 23 तारीख को हमारी उम्मीद थी कि अब एक बाधा आई थी, हो सकता है और कोई अड़चन ना आए हमारे पास, लेकिन 23 को भी जब हमने और 1.8 मीटर्स और अंदर हम प्रवेश किया, पाइप अंदर गई, तो हमें एक और हर्डल मिला, एक और हमारे रास्ते पे एक बाधा आई। वो था कि हमें 4 पोल पाइप मिला। ये जब टनल के छत पे लगता है ये तो ऐसे दिखता है।
ये पाइप्स हैं वो सरिये थे, ये होलो पाइप होते हैं लेकिन काफ़ी मजबूत पाइप्स हैं, ये छत के अंदर लगे होते हैं सर। ये वाला इसके बाद का जो मुड़ा हुआ है,
और जब हम, ये तो बाद की तस्वीर है, वही प्रोसेस फिर से रिपीट करना पड़ा जो मैंने आपको इतने डिटेल में भी समझाया। फिर से वो रुकावट आई, ऑगर मशीन को वापस पूरा लाना पड़ा, उसको डीकपलिंग हम कहते हैं, उसको डीकपल करना पड़ा, बंदों को हम अंदर भेजे। फिर से वही बड़ी बहादुरी से ये बंदे अंदर गए, जो मैंने बोला ट्रेंचलेस कंपनी के हैं। इनका नाम है प्रवीण और बलिंदर, जो पहली रात गए थे। दूसरी रात हमारे पास और ऐसे एक्सपर्ट टेक्नीशियंस आके पहुंच गए थे। हमने 23 के सवेरे और लोगों को बुला लिया था, क्या पता आगे और कोई बाधाएं आए। तो प्रवीण और बलविंदर के साथ हमारे साथ और भी इनके लड़के आए, उनका भी नाम मैं आपके साथ शेयर करूंगा। करीब 8-9 लोगों की टीम है, वो हम आपके साथ शेयर करेंगे। और ये लोग बड़ी बहादुरी से बिल्कुल फिर रात भर जाकर ये जो पाइप जो आप देखें जो छत पे ऐसा रहता है और लंबा सा ऐसे होके, और मलबा के साथ कोलैप्स के बाद ये मशीन में ये सामने ऑगर इसलिए चल नहीं पाया, तो वो ऑगर के जो ब्लेड्स हैं, वो ऑगर के ब्लेड्स के चारों तरफ ऐसे मुड़ गया। ऑगर के ब्लेड्स भी हमारे डैमेज हुए, और इसलिए हमें वापस ऑगर को वापस लाना पड़ा। ऑगर के ब्लेड्स को हमने रिपेयर किए हैं अभी। जो साफ़ सफाई करनी थी, ये बच्चे अंदर गए और इन्होंने क्लीन किया उधर का साफ का, कोई और गर्डर या कोई और इस तरह की मेटल ना हो, ये चेक किया, और अब वो वापस उस ऑगर को फिट कर रहे हैं। इस बीच हमने ये भी देखा कि ऑगर मशीन जिस प्लेटफॉर्म पे इंस्टॉल्ड है वो भी वीक हो रहा था, क्योंकि इतना प्रेशर, इतना टॉर्क बढ़ रहा था, क्योंकि अब डिस्टेंस भी ज़्यादा हो रहा है। 45 मीटर से और हम आगे जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। तो हमने इसी समय, ऐसा नहीं कि हमने कोई भी समय वेस्ट किया है, कोई भी समय बेकार में एक्स्ट्रा लिया है, वैसा नहीं हुआ है। हम इसी समय जब ये क्लीनिंग हो रहा था, अंदर पाइप सफाई हो रही थी और जो जितने सारे मेटल के फोर पोल्स जो मैंने आपको अभी दिखाया, या उससे पहले भी जो गर्डर्स जो हमारे रास्ते पे अड़चन पैदा कर रहे थे, उसी वक्त हमने कंक्रीट का प्लेटफॉर्म किया, उसकी मतलब ग्राउटिंग की उसकी, और जो भी रॉक बोल्टिंग कहते हैं, रॉक बोल्टिंग भी की हमने, ताकि मशीन फिर से मजबूत से बैठा रहे। प्रॉपर उसका रॉक बोल्टिंग और ग्राउटिंग की वजह से हमने ज़्यादा कंक्रीट डाला और मजबूत रहे। हमने ऑफ कोर्स एक्सीलरेटिंग एजेंट डाला कि जल्द से जल्द कंक्रीट जम जाए, टाइम कोई वेस्ट ना हो। हम ये करके सारा फिर से सेट किया। अब ऑगर को हमने वापस रीअसेंबल कर लिया है। अब जैसे हम अभी आपको इसी प्रेस ब्रीफिंग में ये बताना चाहेंगे कि जब वेल्डिंग हो जाएगी, अब जो नई पाइप अब हम डालेंगे उसकी वेल्डिंग हो जाएगी, 2 घंटे लगते हैं उसमें वेल्डिंग के प्रोसेस में भी। आपको ये पहले भी मैंने समझाया है कि वेल्डिंग का प्रोसेस इतने बारीकी से हमें करना पड़ता है और इतने केयरफुली करना पड़ता है कि वेल्डिंग की जगह पाइप से भी मजबूत रहे। ये प्रयास रहता है हमारा। 2 घंटे बाद हम उम्मीद करते हैं वेल्डिंग हमारी पूरी हो और हम पाइप पुश करें, इस बार आगे पुश करें। इस बार कोई बाधाएं हमारे रास्ते पे ना आए, कोई अड़चन और ना आए, ऐसे हम प्रार्थना करते हैं। आप भी कीजिए हमारे साथ, ताकि हम तेज़ी से और आगे बढ़ें।
कितना समय लगेगा? एक मिनट इसी के साथ में एक मिनट 2 घंटे इसी के साथ में एक चीज़ और आपको अवगत कराना चाहेंगे। जैसे सर ने एक्सप्लेन किया कि जो पाइप आ गया, पाइप की वजह से वो प्लेटफॉर्म भी हिल गया, प्लेटफॉर्म स्ट्रेंथनिंग भी करना पड़ा। तो कल शाम 4 बजे से लेकर के अभी तक जो काम चला वो प्लेटफॉर्म स्ट्रेंथनिंग का किया गया, क्योंकि प्लेटफॉर्म हिल गया था कि जैसे पाइप आ गए, पाइप को जब वापस खींचा गया तो जो उसका हमारा 800 mm का पाइप है, 800 mm का पाइप भी डैमेज हो गया। वो आगे से उसका मुंह पतला हो गया, जो सर ने कहा था ना, नैरोइंग हो गया था, उसका नैरोइंग हो गया था। तो इसी वजह से उस पाइप को आज जो हमारी टीम है, जो आपने बताया कि जो उनकी ट्रेंचलेस की टीम है, जो एक्सपर्ट बाहर से भी आए और जो 2 लोग यहाँ के थे, उन सब ने मिलके उस पाइप का 1.5 मीटर 1.2 प्लस मीटर, मतलब 1.2 मीटर के आसपास का हिस्सा उनको काटना पड़ा। जो पाइप हमने अंदर डाला हुआ था, जैसे कल 1.8 मीटर पहले चला गया था, उसके बाद 1.2 मीटर फिर गया था, तो जो 45+3 हो गया था, उसमें 1.2 मीटर का जो पार्ट था उसका क्योंकि नैरोइंग हो गया था, उसमें से आगे ओवर नहीं जा पाता, फिर सारा का सारा दिक्कत होता, तो उसको 1.2 मीटर काटा गया। उसकी पिक्चर्स भी आपके साथ शेयर की जा रही हैं, ये जैसे आप देखेंगे अभी आपको भेज दी गई हैं। तो ये इतना मोटा पाइप जो हमारे द्वारा स्वयं डाला गया था, आप सोचिए उसी को काटने में 7-8 घंटे लगे हैं। क्योंकि आप लोगों को इसलिए अवगत कराना चाह रहे हैं कि लोगों में एक बेचैनी हो जाती है कि इतनी देर क्या हो रहा है, अगर मशीन ख़राब होगी। अगर मशीन ख़राब नहीं हुई है, अगर मशीन काम कर रही है, लेकिन ये अड़चनें ऐसी हैं जिसका पता नहीं चलता। क्योंकि जब उन्होंने देखा कि पाइप पतला हो गया है तो पाइप को काटा जाना ज़्यादा, एक्सपर्ट की टीम है, सब डिस्कस करते हैं, यहाँ इंजीनियरिंग एक्सपर्ट्स भी हैं, जियोलॉजिकल एक्सपर्ट्स भी हैं, यहाँ सारी के सारे उनके एक्सपर्ट्स के बाद में डिस्कशन के बाद में ये हुआ कि इस पाइप को काट करके पुश किया जाएगा तो ज़्यादा बेहतर है। इसी के साथ में एक स्पेशल एक टीम बुलाई गई जो एक होता है ग्राउंड पेनिट्रेटिंग राडार सिस्टम, GPR की है, पार्सन्स करके एक है, उनकी कम्युनिकेशन टेक्नोलॉजी की स्पेशल टीम इमरजेंसी में बुलाई गई। उनमें भी एक लड़का जो कभी भारत भास्कर जो कभी इस तरह के मतलब नैरो स्पेस में नहीं गया होगा, उसको अंदर भेजा गया। वो 45 मीटर अंदर जा करके उसने 45 मिनट के अराउंड तकरीबन लगाए। उसने पूरा वीडियो बनाया, वीडियो के साथ में उसने अपना पूरा जो एक मशीन होती है वो ले करके गए। NDRF के लोगों ने सपोर्ट किया, ट्रेंचलेस ने सपोर्ट किया। वो कोशिश की गई कि वो आगे का जो हमारा पार्ट है उसमें क्या क्या हो सकता है उसको बता दे, लेकिन चूंकि उसका माउथ थोड़ा नैरो हो चुका था, इस वजह से 100% एक्यूरेसी से वो नहीं बता पाए। लेकिन उन्होंने जो उम्मीद की है कि अगले 5 मीटर के अंदर कंटिन्यूअस मेटल ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं है, कुछ हर्डल्स उन्होंने बताए, लेकिन एक जो उम्मीद की जा सकती है कि दे कुड गो अप टू 5.4 मीटर्स, उनकी जो मशीन थी वो 5.4 मीटर्स तक की रीडिंग ले पाई, क्योंकि उसका फेस नैरो हो गया था। अब 5.4 मीटर्स में जो हम एक अच्छी उम्मीद कर सकते हैं, जैसे आपने कहा गुड न्यूज़, यही हम तो मान के चलते हैं कि जैसा उनका एक संभावित, जो उनका एक पॉसिबल उन्होंने एक वो दिया है एनालिसिस, उस पॉसिबल एनालिसिस के अंदर 5.4 मीटर तक कोई कंटिन्यूस मेटल ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं है। कंटिन्यूस मेटल में जैसे सर ने बताया कि गर्डल हो सकता है, पाइप्स हो सकते हैं, जैसे अगर तीसरी एक चीज़ होती है इसके अंदर जो ये पूरे के पूरे आपके गर्डल इसके साथ में लगे रहते हैं, प्लेट्स होते हैं, तो ये इस तरीके की चीज़ें ना होने की संभावना उन्होंने जाहिर की है। वो 100% श्योर नहीं हो सकते, लेकिन उन्होंने जो संभावना जाहिर की है वो भी एक पॉजिटिव रे ऑफ होप है। उसको आज हम पॉजिटिव ये मान सकते हैं कि अभी जो पाइप डाल करके आगे पुश किया जाएगा, उस समय उससे एहसास हो जाएगा, पता चल जाएगा कि जो GPR ये टेक्नोलॉजी का भी इस्तेमाल करने के लिए, तभी आप लोगों को बताना चाहते हैं कि हर संभव प्रयास किए जा रहे हैं। जो भी टेक्नोलॉजी कोई कहीं से सजेशन आता है, कहीं पॉसिबल अवेलेबल है, वो कहीं पर भी हैं देश के अंदर, उन सभी टेक्नोलॉजीज़ का इस रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में इस्तेमाल किया जा रहा है। 2 मिनट आप पेशेंस रख लीजिए, मैं आई विल जस्ट आफ्टर कंप्लीशन मैं आप लोगों को बताऊंगा। तो जैसे ये पूरा का पूरा इसी के साथ में, क्योंकि जो लोग अंदर हैं उनके बारे में आपको बताया गया, तो वहाँ पर भी उनका डॉक्टर से लगातार बात चालू, साइकेट्रिस्ट से भी। आज शाम को संभवतः आप लोगों का, हम उन लोगों से जो साइकेट्रिस्ट हैं, जो डॉक्टर हैं, उनसे आपका इंटरेक्शन होगा, क्योंकि अभी वो लगे हुए हैं। तो जैसे होगा शाम को, अगर फिजिबल 6-7 बजे के टाइम होगा तो आप लोगों के पास भेज देंगे, मतलब यू कैन आस्क द डिटेल, वो संभवतः आप लोगों से बात कर लेंगे उसमें। तो आज हम सिर्फ ये मान सकते हैं, जैसे सर ने बताया, कि आज हमारी रे ऑफ होप पॉजिटिव ये है कि जो GPR टेक्नोलॉजी की रिपोर्ट पॉसिबिलिटी हमारे जिसको कहते हैं फेवर में है। अभी जो पूरी मशीन को उन्होंने काट दिया है, तो जो पिछली बार 45 मीटर पे जैसे सर ने बताया जो हर्डल आया था, उसके बाद में ओगर को 700 mm से छोटा कर दिया गया था। वो 700 mm का ना करके छोटा आगे भेजा गया था कि जो पाइप से निकल जाए। अब वो फिर से बड़ा ओगर यानी फुल स्ट्रेंथ के साथ जो ओगर है वो 700 mm वाला ही आगे लगाया गया, क्योंकि पाइप जो नैरो हो गया था, जो कल आप लोगों को पिक्चर्स मिली थी जिसके अंदर ओगर पाइप ऊपर से मुड़ गया था, हार्ट शेप में हो गया था, वो हार्ट शेप में ना हो गया, वहाँ तक का पाइप काट दिया गया है। तो अब पूरे 700 mm का फुल स्ट्रेंथ का ओगर डाला जाएगा। अब उससे संभवतः उम्मीद सबको है, सभी के सभी लोग यही सोच सकते हैं और यही कह सकते हैं कि सभी उनके लिए दुआएं करें, प्रे करें, तो हो सकता है जल्दी से जल्दी हम लोगों को सभी को कामयाबी मिले।
ओगर कब तक स्टार्ट हो पाएगा?
ओगर अभी जैसे बताया सर ने कि अभी वेल्डिंग का काम चालू है। वेल्डिंग होने के बाद 1.5 से 2 घंटे में जो अब नेक्स्ट हो जाएगा, तो उससे 1.5-2 घंटे के बाद हमारा 1 घंटा क्रिटिकल रहेगा तकरीबन। तो उस समय हम संभवतः जो भी चीज़ हैं फिर उसके बाद में
अभी हम कितने मीटर पर हैं? क्योंकि कल आपने बताया था 46.8, यानी
हाँ जी, ये वाला क्वेश्चन जैसे अभी आप लोगों को बताया गया था, कल 45 प्लस में 1.8 पे यहाँ पर आपको ब्रीफ किया गया था। उसके बाद दिल्ली से जो प्रेस ब्रीफिंग हुई थी उसके अंदर 1.2 मीटर उसके बाद जो पुश हुआ था, तो 45 प्लस 1.8 था, उसके बाद में 1.2 मीटर और पुश हुआ था, तो 48 आपका हो गया था। उसमें से कुछ पाइप हमारे को काटना पड़ा है, लेकिन संभवतः जहाँ तक पाइप जा चुका है वहाँ तक तो फटाफट चला जाएगा। और उसके आगे भी जो हमारी टीम है, जैसे सर ने बताया कि वो जाकर के मैनुअली चेक करते हैं, वहाँ पर पाइप भी काट के लाए हैं। वो जो टीम है उसने ना केवल पाइप हमारे वाला पाइप काटा है जो अंदर जा रहा है, जो दूसरे वर्टिकल पाइप्स आ जा रहे हैं जो आपके छत में लगे होते हैं, वो भी 2 पाइप काट करके वो टीम लाई है। इसीलिए कल से तकरीबन 15-16 घंटे जो काम चला है, पूरी रात भर चला है, और जो सुबह भी अब तक दोपहर लगी है, वो पाइप काट के वो उन्होंने जो देखा उस पाइप को ऑलरेडी काट लाए। तो अगले मतलब जो अभी इमीडिएट पुश तो जल्दी हो जाएगा, लेकिन उसके आगे की संभावना हम GPR की जो रिपोर्ट है उसकी और बाकी सबकी जिसको कहते हैं कि पॉजिटिव होप के साथ में ये हम मान सकते हैं कि आगे सक्सेस मिलने की संभावना लगेगी।
एक मिनट GPR की जो रिपोर्ट है सर, उसमें 5 मीटर आपको लग रहा है कोई ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं है, तो
एक कंटिन्यूस ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं है। हाँ जी मैडम,
आप क्या पूछ रही थी? 2 more pipes are to be inserted because these pipes are of 6 meter length, so we'll need with the first 6 meter length we'll probably reach around 51-52, and with the next 6 meter length we hope to break through. This is our own estimation and understanding. These assessments are obviously based on certain realities, but they are all assumptions. So it's not to be taken exactly, but we hope to be there somewhere.
सर जीपीआर वाली बात पूरी कर लेते हैं। जीपीआर में जो आपने पाया कि 5 मीटर कोई ऐसा ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं मिलने वाला है, वो थोड़ा आसान रहेगा। क्या इसके बाद की जो लेंथ है, जो बचेगी लेंथ करीब 6 मीटर की लेंथ अगर बचती है, तो क्या उस तकनीक का फिर से इस्तेमाल किया जाएगा जीपीआर का, या फिर उसके आगे फिर आप उसी आधार पे चलेंगे?
आपका जो सवाल था बहुत सही सवाल है, क्योंकि अभी तो हम 5.4 मीटर एग्जैक्टली हम रीड कर पाए ये ग्राउंड पेनिट्रेटिंग रडार से। और जैसे मैंने बोला था, मैनुअली भी जो बंदा गया पाइप काटा, उसने वहाँ साफ सफाई की, उसने भी देखा हाथ डाल के मलबा में 1-1.25 मीटर तक हाथ शट जा पाएगा, तो उसमें उसको और कोई नहीं मिले। जो एकाक उसको रॉड वगैरह मिला था वो निकाल के ले आया। तो हम ये उम्मीद करते हैं कि ये 5 मीटर हम ज़रा तेज़ी से आगे बढ़ें। उसके बाद का उस कंडीशन देख के हम इट इज़ पॉसिबल कि हम ग्राउंड पेनिट्रेटिंग रडार का फिर से इस्तेमाल करें। लोगों के एक्सपीरियंस भी हैं और बहुत सारे दूसरे सेंस भी होता है, मशीन क्या फील कर रहा है, कितना प्रेशर पे है, कितना टॉर्क पे है, ये सब पैरामीटर्स देखते हुए हम आगे का डिसीजन लेंगे।
थैंक यू।
इसमें जैसे सर ने कहा
there are no hurdles, sir, तो सेकंड पाइप के जरिए जो आप कह रहे हैं will make the breakthrough.
Let us all hope and pray, because as we have been doing for the last so many days, कि एक पाइप ये पहला निकल आए और सेकंड पाइप जो है हमारा जहाँ भी वो ब्रेक थ्रू लाए, दैट शुड बी इनफ, और हम अपने लोगों तक पहुँच पाए जल्द से जल्द।
सर कल तक हम 48 मीटर्स थे, आज हम कितने मीटर?
2 more।
सर कल तक हम 48 मीटर्स पे थे।
उससे लेंथ क्या है, जो लंबाई कितनी है, 60 है या 60 से कम?
देखिए, जैसा सर ने कहा, मैं एक चीज़ सर के वाले में ऐड करना चाह रहा था। जो आप लोगों को बताया गया कि जीपीआर का प्रयोग दोबारा करने की शायद आवश्यकता ना पड़े, वो तब की बात है जब अगर हर्डल आता है और फिर सारा मशीन खोला जाता है, देन इट विल बी ट्राइड। अदरवाइज आल्सो आप समझ सकते हैं कि जो आखिरी का मलबा होता है वो जैसे धीरे धीरे आया है, तो उम्मीद है कि आखिरी का मलबा उसके ऊपर फोर्स कम होगा। भाई जैसे आखिरी का मलबा है उसके ऊपर जितना कम मटेरियल है, तो आखिरी में ये भी उम्मीद है कि मशीन इतनी पावरफुल है। अभी मशीन 100 से 125 टन के फोर्स पे काम करती है। जब बीच में जो प्लेटफॉर्म हिला उस समय वो तकरीबन 150 से 200 के ऊपर गई थी, तब हुआ था। और जब 45 मीटर पे हर्डल आई थी, जब वो लैटिस गर्डल पूरी आई थी, उस समय 300 टन तक की पावर उन्होंने अप्लाई की थी। फिर भी मशीन में 600 टन तक की पावर की ये मशीन है। आप समझ सकते हैं कि मशीन बहुत पावरफुल है। प्लेटफॉर्म भी स्ट्रेंथन कर दिया गया है, तो अगर ज़रूरत पड़ेगी तो अभी 100-125 से चल रहा है, तो पुश अगर होगा तो आगे आखिरी वाले में तो उम्मीद ये की जा सकती है कि जल्दी पुश भी हो सकता है। लेकिन ये सब प्रोबेबिलिटीज़ हैं, प्रिजम्पशंस हैं। जैसा सर ने कहा, लेट्स होप एंड प्रे दैट वी शुड डू प्लीज़।
थैंक यू। बाधाएं और अड़चनें कभी भी आ सकती हैं।
सर कल तक 48 था, आज कितना मीटर है सर?
सर मीटर कितना होगा?
वही है जो कल था, उसमें बताया पाइप काटना पड़ा है कुछ,
तो हम 45 आ गए सर।
46.8 मान सकते हैं। 46.8 हुआ है ना? हाँ जी, 1.2 दो नहीं 1.2 वो आपको शेयर कर दी जा रही है।
हम तैयार हैं और भी हमारे पास पाइप है, बट उम्मीद रखिए कि और पाइप की ज़रूरत ना पड़े, 2 पाइप में हम ब्रेक थ्रू कर पाएँ।
अच्छा, ये 700 है या 800 mm के? सर ये 700 है या 800 mm?
800।
अगर सर अभी नहीं स्टार्ट हुई ना सर,
तो और जल्द भी हो सकता है।
सर सिंस द ऑगर हैजंट स्टार्टेड, सो वी कैन सी
एक सर से एक बार 1 by 1 कर ले, पहले सर को 1 by 1 अगर आप 1 by 1
स्टार्ट नहीं हुआ है तो इसका मतलब ड्रिलिंग भी नहीं स्टार्ट हुआ ना, साथ में होगा ना।
अब तक टोटल डिस्टेंस जो ट्रैवर्स किया है वो कितना है?
46.8 जैसे नीरज जी ने बताया आपको कि हम 48 तक पहुंचे थे, लेकिन उसके बाद हमने 1.2 मीटर, क्योंकि वो आगे का हिस्सा बेंड हुआ था, तो हमने 1.2 मीटर काट के हटाया, तो हम अभी 46.8।
सर अगर सब कुछ ठीक रहा,
फोटोज अभी भिजवा दे रहे हैं आपके मीडिया ग्रुप में, फोटो सारे आ जाएंगे।
All right, you're listening to the press conference from the site of that collapsed tunnel in India's Uttarkashi. Just to recap very quickly for the benefit of viewers tuning in, 48 meters of drilling has completed. The officials expect 5 more meters to be covered in the next several hours, which means, in turn, 2 more pipes need to be laid in order to make physical contact with those 41 workers at the other end of the collapsed tunnel or the debris. Drilling will resume in a few hours from now because they are assembling, putting back the equipment once again for drilling to resume the auger machine, it's called. The good news is that yesterday they encountered a hurdle, a girder which was coming in the way of the drilling, the trajectory. That problem has been overcome. Drilling will resume shortly. And a ground-penetrating radar has shown that there will not likely be any more hurdle between now and the destination that's 5 meters away before 2 more pipes are laid and physical contact is established finally after 12 or 13 days with those 41 workers trapped inside that tunnel. We'll get you more on this issue going forward. But that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.